Hey there, and welcome to the UkeStuff channel, and welcome to this review. It's the full UkeGuide review of the Paisen Rosewood concert ukulele. They sell on Amazon for around $76. So on these reviews, they are rather long-winded, and I don't really apologize for that because you have the power of the internet in your hands. And ultimately, there are chapters down here, and you can skip ahead to the parts of the video that matter to you. Those are also listed in the description below. So Paisen contacted me and asked me if I'd like to review this instrument, and here is that full UkeGuide review of this instrument. If you'd like to see the handout that goes with it, you can find it at ukestuff.info, or you can just do the shortcut at ukeguide.info, and you can just find the Paisen listed there, click on the document, and save it or print it as you wish. The whole idea of the UkeGuide, by the way, was to make a single-page guide sort of based on the energy efficiency ratings that we sell on appliances here in the United States, a way to give you a one-page summary of the instrument accompanied by a very long video. And what I'll do is I'll talk about subjective issues, then I'll talk about the specifications of the instrument, and then I'll end with a summary, which again is subjective, and a UkeGuide rating. So let's talk about the subjective aspects of the instrument. It is $76, although there are often coupons on it. I think this one altogether, not on any special deal, cost me $60 when I bought it. In terms of value, you get a rather well-built ukulele, a lower-priced laminate ukulele. So you get that. You also get strap buttons on your ukulele. They include a strap, which is kind of neat colored, green, red, and black. That's a little different. You get a tuner, which is nice. You get a capo, which you may or may not use. You get extra strings. Here are the extra strings that you get. You get a little card. They do promise lifetime warranty on it. And some picks in there. I think there are 4 picks. When I did the unboxing, turns out there was a 4th pick in there. And you get a little ukulele guide if you need it. And that's a pretty nice kit in terms of value for what you need starting off. That said, the price point is $76. Now down to $60 becomes very competitive, but ultimately there's a lot of competition at this range. So just keep that in mind as we go through this review, is that there are also a lot of other models out there. I'm not saying that you necessarily will want to choose another model or that this is the only choice for you. I'm not going to go out on a limb and say that sort of thing to you, but I just will say that there's a lot of competition at this price range. You also, by the way, forgot to mention, you do get a lightly padded gig bag. It's probably, I don't know, it's no more than 10 millimeters of padding on the inside. It's a more than serviceable gig bag for a lower cost laminate instrument. So it's nice you get it. The Paisen logo is embroidered on there, and you have a small pocket that will not carry all the things that you get with the ukulele. So just keep that. I mean, the front pocket won't. You could put it in a case, but ultimately you'll want to probably just carry strings and perhaps maybe your picks. If you're, I don't know, I don't like using plastic picks. I always say, why aren't they leather or why aren't they felt? But basically, that's about all that you'll want to carry in the front there. Tuner, strap, other things you'll probably want on the ukulele as it's in its bag. Now, in terms of build quality, overall, it's really nicely done. No complaints on the build at all. It's nicely finished. It's kind of got a porous finish, but that all looks good across. The neck is nice in terms of feel, no weird tooling marks. Overall, on the outside, it's built really well. But what about the inside? So let's take a look in through the sound hole and see what's going on the inside of the ukulele. Take a look at the Paisen Concert Rosewood ukulele. Again, rosewood laminate. So we're going into the oak leaf or fighting fish sound hole into there. All right, let's take a look at what we've got. You can see some mess with glue, but you can see the notch kerfing, and you can see there's the bridge plate underneath the bridge. There are no vertical supports on this ukulele. There are a couple of horizontal supports where the sound hole would normally be. Not sure what that large piece of extra wood is there. Just looks like something when they were gluing it fell on top and is glued there. And you can see the inside pattern of the laminate wood. And you can see the tail block. All right, let's go take a look at the upper bout. All right, here you can see where the thickness of the laminate is really not that thick. It looks thicker because of the oak leaf or fighting fish. But let's just go into here. There's not a whole lot of room to work with. Here is the largest example of glue pooling on the ukulele. There is some areas where there is a lot of glue used, and you can see some glue residue, but overall it looks like it's pretty solidly made. So there's a brace right there, and unfortunately I can't get an angle on the other brace on the other side. So that's our look at the Paisen Rosewood concert ukulele. All right, so we're back. As you can see, pretty good build in there. Some glue, yeah, that's pretty typical of almost all the ukuleles that we see, right? There's some glue spill, maybe a little more than average, but still nothing to complain about there. The interesting part, again, is the fact that there are no vertical braces, but being laminate, it probably doesn't need them. Now, how about appearance? Well, there are a lot of neat features here. I do like this stylized extended bridge that gives you some extra frets to play on the first and second strings. As you become a soloist, or if you become an ukulele soloist, you don't do much chord stuff way up here. You generally are working individual notes up there, and that gives you the ability to play on the highest notes where you generally would be on the very highest part of that fretboard. So I like that. McAferry's had that. Has, ultimately, I like the darker color a lot. The binding and purfling is unique. It's two different things going on. So you've got that pattern up there, and then you've got kind of a different pattern on the side. It works all together. It looks good, but that's a little bit of a different approach. And then probably the big point here is going to be this. I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not a fan of that. And I'm not docking the review at all because of that. But this is based off of the Ovation oak leaf. But if you look at this, it's more than an oak leaf. It's a koi fish. Can you see that? You see the eye right there that's added to it? That is not on the Ovations. So it's kind of a pickguard. It was kind of Ovation's way of changing things up, and that has been adopted in this model. I think I would like this ukulele visually better if it had a traditional sound hole with this as a rosette around it. I think that would look really sharp, and that is something that I'd be interested in. So, the appearance is really, there are some nice touches here on the ukulele, especially with that binding and purfling there, especially with that fretboard. And it's up to you whether you like the dark color or whether you like the grape leaf or koi fish there. So really, either you're going to like this or you're not, and that's kind of up to you. In terms of availability, if you want one of these, you can order it from Amazon right now. You can go to the Paisen store. They have these in concerts and in tenors. Now, in terms of playability, the nut is smaller than 35 millimeters, not by much. So, it's approaching 35 millimeters. It's a standard C-shaped neck. It has kind of traditional or even a little tighter than normal spacing for a 35 millimeter nut, but I find it totally playable. And I was just chatting with someone on one of the ukulele forums about the fact that I play so many 35 millimeter nut instruments that I have no problem working around them. And they just said, well, I wish I had that because I need a 38 or larger nut in order to feel comfortable playing. So they must have very large hands. With size large men hands, I have no problem playing this. Really though, my biggest gripe is that it doesn't have side position markers, considering it has everything else, the fact that it doesn't have side position markers is kind of sad to me, because again, I go off of both. I do look to see if the markers are there when I'm playing, but I also base what I'm doing off of the side position markers too. Yeah, you can install them later. You can put on decals. You can put on a drop of paint. Yeah, you can do those things and solve it, but it is nice when the company has that solved for you. So if there's any suggestion I make to Paisen, is that please put side position markers on, and I'd love to see a model with a traditional sound hole. Now let's get to sound quality. And here's where I sort of need to make a left-hand turn on the review and talk about a problem that I see. I'm going to tune up here again really quickly, just so I can prove my point here of what I'm about to talk about. It is holding its tune. I just want to make extra sure that I show you what I'm talking about. What I'm finding is that as I play up the neck, pitches are going sharp. And I wonder if I can even show this with this tuner here. It's on chromatic. And maybe you'll be able to see it with the glare. I don't know. Let's see what I can do here to get it out of the glare and let you see the screen. Maybe there's about the best. But as I go up, it's going sharp as I go up the neck. And if I'm looking at it as I'm playing it, it's definitely showing very sharp as I go up the neck. Now, I contacted a friend of mine, Ukester Brown, and we chatted over text about it a little bit. The setup is good. The setup is good. I didn't mention that in playability, but the setup is good. Maybe a touch high on the settle in, but lower than average at the nut. So really, it shouldn't have any problem there. I've checked the scale length, and the scale length is on. When I play harmonics, they come out super clearly. Here's at the 12th. Right where you'd expect it. Here's at the 7th. They come out even better than a lot of other ukuleles. And then at the 5th. Let's see if I can get it. Yeah, they're not coming out as clearly, but they're there. The harmonics are lining up where they're supposed to be. And the frets are not overly tall. So it's not like the notes are being pressed down so hard that they're being pulled out of tune that way. And in fact, even if I play as lightly as I can, it's still sharp at the 12th fret, even though the harmonic is perfectly right. So the only conclusion I can make is that it's the strings that are on it, and I need to change the strings. I don't know. So I will be doing that after this review, and this entire review is kind of dependent upon that. So if you're going to play chords up here, they're going to sound out of tune compared to up here, where the intonation is slightly better, and it does get worse as it goes up. So with that in mind, I need to just warn you that this one is playing really sharp up the ukulele, even though it shouldn't be for all intents and purposes. It's not wrong. So I don't know what's going on there, and hopefully I'll be able to follow up with different strings and maybe make a follow-up video about that later. Other than that, it is a darker sound. A lot of mid-range, not a lot of bright. And again, it has what are labeled as super nalgete strings on it. So, and again, super nalgete strings don't always have that shimmer that I like. I generally like bright sounding ukuleles. So it's more dark than it's bright. It's still balanced. And the sound is a little muted. It's not totally clear. And all those things could be just strings. So it's really hard to go against anything that I'm saying here. And I know that's maybe not so useful, but I need to try this with different strings, but you don't do a review with strings other than the ones that come with an instrument. I mean, that just makes sense. So with that in mind, just keep that in mind. Now, let me show you what I'm hearing. One of the things I do is I use an app called Tonal Energy Tuner to let you see what I'm hearing. So I'm going to play the chord C, which is only, one finger on the first string, third fret. I'm going to play that chord. And you can see what's sustaining. So what I'm seeing there is some sustain, and you see that the entire range is sort of thrown out there when you strum. But when it gets to the last notes that are carrying, it's really low to mid-range that's sounding with no higher overtones at all. So ultimately, when I say that the ukulele sounds dark and why it sounds a little muted, I think that's it. And again, it could just be a string issue. All right, that covers all of the subjective issues of the ukulele. Let's talk about the specifications. It is a concert ukulele with a 15-inch scale length, dead on, which is what I was expecting. One of the things I wanted to test when I was noticing the sharpness as I went up is perhaps the scale wrong? Nope, the scale's right on. The harmonics work. So there you go. It has 19 frets with 12 to the body. That's a little different. A lot of times you see concerts with 14 to the body or just over 13. It does not have side position markers, and that's really a shame. I wish it did. It's a traditional double belt body, but without the traditional sound hole. You have 5 little sound holes in the grape leaf or koi fish or oak leaf instead. The soundboard is laminate rosewood, as are the back and sides. The laminate itself isn't super thick. It's kind of moderate. The only spot that it's thick is right where this pattern is, so it can be deceiving if you look at the sound hole. It's actually double the thickness of what it really is, just where that pattern is. The fretboard, which is kind of cool, again, I'm calling it a stylized extended fretboard. That's in the spirit of the Macaferry and how it was described there. But that gives you extra reach at those very, very top frets. It's made out of rosewood. It could be oiled to match the bridge, which is made out of rosewood as well. The bridge is a slotted bridge, which should make string changes easy. And again, looks like I'll be changing those strings and following up with what is it like now. Not in this video, by the way. That'll be a future video. It does not have a radius fretboard, straight across. The nut and saddle appear to be plastic to me. I looked online and I couldn't find a descriptor that said anything else. It could be potentially bone as well. Not quite sure. It has kind of the sheen of plastic though. It is not a compensated saddle. It is straight across. The finish is sort of a satin finish. There is certainly not a gloss. The overall length is 23.25 or 23 1/4 inches from tip to tail, and it weighs 1 pound, 1.4 ounces. It has closed-geared tuners that are unbranded. They work just fine. The action at the first fret is less than 0.5 millimeters, and the action at the 12th fret is 2.75 millimeters. So the action is decent. I typically like it another 0.25 of a millimeter more closer to the 12th fret, but that's totally within tolerance and should not cause any issues with intonation either. The nut width is 34.25 millimeters, so less than a 35 millimeter nut. The space at the first fret between strings is 8.43 millimeters, so that's pretty tight. 28 millimeters G to A. So it's, pretty standard for a 35 or a little bit tighter. It doesn't bother me at all, but if you're a person that likes wider spacing with large hands, that could be an issue for you. And the depth at the third fret on this rather, traditional C-shaped neck is 21.82 millimeters at the third fret from the top of the strings to the bottom of the neck, which again is pretty typical. So let's summarize the instrument. The Paisen Rosewood Concert Ukulele is a entry-level ukulele with a few more features than you would typically see at that price point, and certainly a few more things to look at. The big feature, of course, are the 5 sound holes with the grape leaf, fighting fish, oak leaf on the ukulele. And really, that is what's going to determine whether or not you buy this ukulele. Either you're going to look at that and love it, or you're going to stay away from it. And again, I would much rather see a traditional sound hole with this purfling or this binding, either way, around the sound hole. That would be more appealing to me. But again, it's your money, your value, right? That's what we kind of look at here. It does have some really nice features. The fretboard is cool. I like that. The stylized extended fretboard has closed geared tuners, which I mean is pretty common. It comes with strap buttons. You get a pretty nice kit with it, with everything that you need really to start playing. So really no complaints there. The big issue for me, again, is really the intonation as you move up the neck, and it's going really sharp on me, and it shouldn't be. So again, I'm just assuming that it's the strings. I'm going to change the strings. So if you're watching this video and you're wondering how that turns out, down the road, look up the second video. Just do a search and see if you can find it. If I remember, I can even try to link it in the description once I make that, and I'll let you know how that changes things. But everything here should be working right. The scale length is right, the action is right, the depth of the frets is right. There's no other reason why there should be intonation. Even the harmonics are right. So I don't know, and I will try that out and see what I can tell you for that. Now, with that, if this appeals to you in looks, the price is right, occasionally they're on sale, there's no reason not to add one of these to your collection. I don't know if it was Paisen, but there was a company that used to stamp guitar on the side of these. The Paisen does not, although they did offer in Amazon a model with a different name, even in the Paisen store, than this. So I wanted to make sure that I got the one that said Paisen on it. That looks screened and under the finish. I do not think that that is an inlay there. So with that, I rate ukuleles from a scale of 0 to 5. So I'm going to rate this one 2 ways, okay? If the intonation is fixed with new strings, and check out the future video of that, I would rate this as a 4 out of 5 for what you're getting, the quality of the construction, and so forth. If the ukulele doesn't intonate right after the strings, the rating for me would have to go down to either a 2.5 or a 3. For now, I'm going to leave it at the 4, expecting that new strings are going to solve it. And I can see where someone would say, how can you give it a good rating if the strings are the issue? And my answer is, I change pretty much the strings on almost everything I buy. An instrument just has to come with certain strings for me to leave them on. Otherwise, I'm a fluorocarbon player. I'm going to put on fluorocarbons and see how that impacts the instrument. So for now, I'm going to leave it at the 4. But if the new strings don't fix it, it would bring my rating down significantly. And I will mention that in the follow-up video if that's the case. And I'll also make a note of that on the UkeGuide that I publish at ukestuff.info or ukeguide.info. All right, so that's a look at this kind of different ukulele. Again, a lot of competition at this price point, but certainly nothing to be avoided if that intonation issue is solved with different strings. Thanks so much for watching the video. I hope you're having a great day, and I will be back soon with some more Uke stuff for you.